In a scary moment as we went to commercial, Sophie Cunningham hit the floor hard. And
Sophie Cunningham, oh man, I got to tell you, this victory, it came with a big price.
In one of the scariest moments we've seen this season, Sophie Cunningham hit the hardwood with a brutal crash that silenced the entire arena. And while Indiana Fever fans were still trying to process what just happened, the harsh reality set in. This wasn't just another fall. This was the heart and soul of the team collapsing before our eyes. For weeks, Sophie has been the glue holding the Fever together. In Caitlin Clark's absence, the fighter, the defender, the one who refused to back down when opponents targeted Indiana with reckless physical play. And yet, in the blink of an eye, that spark was ripped away when Bria Hartley, already notorious for dirty fouls and cheap shots, collided directly into Sophie's knee, leaving her screaming in pain and unable to stand. The scene was chilling, the atmosphere felt cursed, and many immediately wondered if this was the breaking point for a Fever squad already battered by injuries, already counted out by critics, and now stripped of their toughest warrior. But what followed after that moment would shock everyone and flip the narrative of this game into something far bigger than basketball.
Where Sophie Cunningham went out in the first half. And that was such a huge blow for the Indiana Fever because Sophie Cunningham has been somebody, she has been the glue of this team since Caitlin has been out.
The injury itself looked like something out of a nightmare. Bria Hartley drove baseline with Kelsey Mitchell shadowing her. Sophie slid over to help, and in that split second, Hartley lost control, crashed down, and her full weight landed straight across Sophie's planted leg. You could see Sophie immediately clutch her knee, her face twisting in agony, and that's when everyone knew this wasn't the kind of knock you just walk off. She's the type of player who bounces up after hard contact, who laughs off bruises and keeps grinding. But this time, there was no bounce, no laugh, just raw pain and teammates rushing to her side. The Fever bench froze, the fans held their breath, and as the cameras cut to commercial break, the reality hit Indiana's defensive anchor. The very player who had become their backbone during Caitlin Clark's absence might have just gone down for the season. And the worst part? It wasn't some unavoidable accident. This came at the hands of a player with a history, a player who has already built a reputation across the league for reckless fouls and dirty tactics, a player whose name instantly reignited every conversation about whether the WNBA has lost control of its officiating. Bria Hartley's track record speaks louder than any replay, and that's why fans instantly called foul on this so-called collision. This isn't just one bad moment, this is a pattern. Just last week, she yanked Angel Reese by the ponytail and dragged her across the floor like it was a wrestling match. Before that, she ripped Becca Allen down by the head, sending her crashing to the court. And who can forget the scuffle with Ariel Atkins when she had to be physically separated after another reckless play? It's been one dirty incident after another, and yet somehow, Hartley keeps escaping real punishment, building a resume of cheap shots that any other league would have cracked down on months ago. And that's the problem when a player with this history is allowed to run wild without consequences. Moments like Sophie Cunningham's injury stop looking like bad luck and start looking like the inevitable result of negligence. Fans saw Sophie lying on the floor, tears streaming down her face, and immediately they didn't just feel heartbreak, they felt anger. Anger at Hartley, anger at the Sun, anger at the referees, and anger at a league office that seems to be asleep at the wheel while star after star gets knocked out by reckless, dangerous play. What made this moment even more gut-wrenching is who Sophie Cunningham has become for Indiana. Since Caitlin Clark went down, she hasn't just filled a role, she's taken ownership of the team's entire identity. She's the one diving for loose balls, locking up the opponent's best scorer, firing up her teammates when the game slips, and putting her body on the line every single possession. She wasn't just a role player, she was the glue, the enforcer, the emotional spark that turned a fragile Fever squad into fighters. Losing her wasn't like losing points off the board, it was like ripping the heart straight out of the roster. She was averaging double figures, shooting lights out from deep, and doing the dirty work no one else wanted to do. And suddenly, she's on the ground screaming, clutching her knee, while Indiana stares down the possibility of their season crumbling for good. The timing couldn't be worse, a team already battered by injuries, already scraping to stay alive in the playoff race, and now their toughest soldier might be lost. For the Fever, this wasn't just another injury. This was the kind of blow that can break a locker room spirit. And this is where the outrage turned into a firestorm, because fans weren't the only ones calling it out. Sophie's own family went public immediately. Her sister Lindsay blasted the league on social media, saying, maybe instead of fining players for speaking up, the WNBA should hire referees who can actually protect athletes, calling the officiating pathetic and flat out dangerous. Then came Sophie's mother, Paula, who didn't hold back either, calling Hartley a disgruntled player who has left trouble everywhere she's gone and flatly labeling her mean-spirited and reckless. These weren't just emotional posts from relatives, they echoed what countless players and fans have been saying for months. The league is letting this chaos spiral out of control. And the proof was right there on the floor, Sophie crying out in pain, unable to stand, while officials swallowed their whistles on a play that could end her season and maybe her career. It wasn't just about one foul anymore, it became a referendum on whether the WNBA even values the safety of its stars. Because when someone like Hartley, with a rap sheet of dirty plays longer than a highlight reel, keeps getting chance after chance, the question stops being, was it an accident, and becomes, why is this even allowed to happen in the first place? The heartbreaking part is that Sophie's reaction told the whole story without a single word. This is a player built on toughness, someone who shrugs off hits, who gets back up when others would stay down, and for her to instantly grab her knee, hop once, and then collapse in tears, everyone watching knew something major had just happened. She tried to stand, she tried to put weight on that leg, but it was impossible. Teammates rushed over, trainers sprinted across the floor, and as she was helped off the court, the silence in the arena said it all. For Indiana, already running on fumes with a roster shredded by injuries, it felt like the final straw. And the anger only grew because this wasn't some freak accident. This was the direct result of the league's refusal to clamp down on reckless, dangerous play. For months, players have been slammed, shoved, and dragged, like it's a UFC cage fight, and the referees keep letting it slide. Sophie's injury wasn't just an isolated moment, it was the predictable outcome of a season where chaos has been allowed to run unchecked. And now, Indiana might have paid the ultimate price. From the very first quarter, this game felt like a powder keg waiting to explode, and the officiating only poured gasoline on the fire. Sophie was getting hacked, shoved, even knocked to the ground 75 feet away from the basket, and somehow the whistle stayed silent. Instead of keeping control, the refs actually hit Sophie with an early technical, as if punishing her would magically cool things down, while Connecticut's players were free to bulldoze through knees and throw bodies around like it was open season. And it's not just tonight, this Sun team has built a reputation for physical play that goes way past physical and deep into reckless. Time and time again against Indiana, we've seen the same story. Dangerous dives at legs, elbows flying, and players leaving the game injured. They even wear it like a badge of honor, bragging about how tough they are, when in reality, it's reckless basketball that borders on assault. Fans don't tune in to watch UFC, they tune in to watch basketball, and the fact that the WNBA keeps allowing this brand of chaos has left players, coaches, and fans all asking the same question: has the league completely lost control? And that's what makes Sophie's loss sting even more, because she wasn't just filling a spot on the roster, she was the one holding this team together when everything else was falling apart. Since the All-Star break, she's been their most consistent piece, averaging double digits, shooting over 50% from three, and doing the dirty work nobody else wanted to do. She was the protector, the spark, the one who stood up for Caitlin Clark when defenders tried to bully her, the one who set the tone every night with toughness and fight. For Indiana, losing Sophie isn't just about losing points or rebounds, it's about losing their heartbeat. This is a team already missing Clark, already patching holes with hardship deals and short rotations, and now their fiercest competitor might be sidelined just as the playoff push is heating up. It's a devastating blow at the worst possible time, and the fear is simple. Without Sophie, the Fever's slim shot at making the postseason might have just vanished in a single reckless play. By halftime, it felt like Indiana's season was being buried for good. Down 19 at the break, the deficit stretched to 21 in the third, and with Sophie gone, the Fever looked finished. Most teams would have folded right there, accepted the loss, and started preparing excuses. But Indiana did the opposite. They came alive. Kelsey Mitchell flipped a switch and started raining buckets like a superstar possessed. Odyssey Sims stepped up with veteran fire just days after signing a hardship contract, and Lexi Hull drilled the dagger three that sealed the impossible. Aaliyah Boston owned the boards. Natasha Howard battled inside, and even role players who barely saw the floor gave everything to keep the fight alive. What unfolded wasn't just a comeback. It was the biggest rally in franchise history, a 21-point swing against one of the league's most physical teams, all without their defensive anchor. It defied the numbers, it defied the odds, and it reminded everyone that the Indiana Fever aren't just a team scraping by. They're a team built on resilience, grit, and the kind of heart you can't measure in a box score. This game was more than basketball. It was heartbreak and history in the same night. Sophie Cunningham, the glue of the Fever, went down in brutal fashion, and for a moment, it felt like Indiana's season was over. But instead of collapsing, the Fever rose. Kelsey Mitchell put on a superstar performance, Odyssey Sims and Aaliyah Boston battled like warriors, and Lexi Hull drilled the dagger that sealed the comeback. What should have been the team's breaking point became their defining moment. Yes, Sophie's loss cast a shadow, but her toughness and fight lived on through every player who refused to quit. And in the process, Indiana showed the league and the world that they cannot be counted out. This wasn't just a win, it was a miracle, a message, and a reminder that no matter how hard they get hit, the Fever will always rise again.